Dr. Cornel West, thank you for being here.
It's a blessing to sit here with you, man.
It's so good to have you here.
Definitely.
Ambition is a complicated subject, but it's a deep one. When is ambition something to be ashamed of? And when is it something to revel in and celebrate?
As long as ambition has a spiritual and moral dimension to it, it's a beautiful thing. Tolstoy was ambitious. Toni Morrison was ambitious. John Coltrane was ambitious. Stephen Sondheim was ambitious. All of these folk who were ambitious really were people who had a profound vocation. See, a vocation is not the same as profession. If you're in a profession and you don't have a vocation, you're going to get caught up in the dominant forces. And what are the dominant forces of our day? Markets, buying, selling, spectacle, image, celebrity.
Let's go back.
Too much narcissism and hedonism, but not enough caring and nurturing of others as well as self. But it's always been that way. See, I'm not an alarmist about that.
No, doesn't alarm me.
Oh no, every moment of human history, it's been a history that's pretty ugly, man. You know, the challenge has always been the self-destructive tendencies of the species.
I want to mention something about Donald Trump, which is that a year before the 2016 election, I sat with him. I reported on his corporate bankruptcies. There were many things that surprised me about being in his presence and talking to him. But one of them back then was he had never had any kind of representative role before in his life. He went from not representing anyone politically to being president. I think it's essentially fair to say the same thing about you. Tell us about why you're qualified in a way that he wasn't in this life you've had where you've done many things, but being a political leader in the regular sense is not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, one is that anytime you engage in high quality service to others, no matter what the context, you have to come with a spirit of humility. You learn and listen. So I'd have to have some high quality folk around me who have spent time in the machinations of the system. But you're right, never holding office. So I'd have to come in with a spirit of humility. But most important, you see, we're at the edge of a cliff when it comes to the United States. It's a very, very sad moment because the worst of any country, just like the worst of any human being, is allowed that hatred and greed, especially when it's organized, institutionalized, and routinized. It's just almost subversive to try to have integrity, honesty, and decency in a lot of our context. So for me, my role is to reintroduce America to the best of itself. Because we've had some great figures and traditions in the United States. We really have.
I have a financial question. You mentioned the word accountability. You
Yeah.
know, there are reports that you have owed hundreds of thousands of dollars
Absolutely.
in federal taxes, and then a smaller amount, I think tens of thousands of dollars in child support.
Yeah, that was the one that was a lie. I've never actually had any child back payment in that sense, though.
Let's talk about
But the taxes. Very much. Oh, yes.
It's fair to hold candidates to really high standards.
I agree.
What happened so that you didn't pay, whatever was owed?
Well, one, I've always been broke as the Ten Commandments financially. I've had heavy debts and obligations, both with family as well as getting behind. You see, I had student loans when I first came out, and I got behind way back in the 80s. And there was a time when I had multiple audits. I had knocks on the door to get a subpoena Christmas Eve. And I said, dang, could you all wait for another day? I know I'm behind. But the good news has always been that I set up installment plans. And I've always done that because it's true, and I think that people are right to raise these questions, that money's never really meant that much to me. It really, as long as I can keep my money flow, I live from paycheck to paycheck. And that's true for 63% of my fellow citizens in the country. The richest nation in the history of the world. You got CEOs running around here, multi-million dollars every year. And these precious citizens barely making it. I do, in fact, recognize my checks are bigger, but my debts are bigger. And I've always been chasing that next check in order to make it, but I've always been open about that.
Is it something that you're going to work on, I guess, now but before the election to try to clear away?
Well, it's the same because I've always had the installment plans in place. But you see, the important thing is, the great Melville, our greatest novelist, he used to say that truth is a ragged edge. He said, if you're really committed to truth, it means you're not just speaking truth to powerless, you're also speaking truth to yourself. See, and that's Socratic, isn't it?
It's not easy.
Self-examination, that's self-scrutiny. And it takes a certain kind of courage to do that. Not just in private, but in public.
Are there things that you've found when you look inside that you don't like?
For myself? Oh, absolutely. I'm a human being. I'm a cracked vessel, my brother. I got revolutionary potential. I got thuggish proclivities. And I'm wrestling with this every day. Kendrick Lamar has the same wrestling. I like that. Any decent human being does. Michael Hurley does.
Michael Hurley.
Oh, yes, those valley of tears that he finds himself in, stealing the right to live. Tell the truth, Brother Michael, about yourself. But he bounced back. Tupac bounces back. I attempt to bounce back, but it's human, all the way down, Brother Max.
Let's talk about capitalism. Do you feel optimistic, something akin to optimistic about American capitalism? Can you imagine a world where capitalism somehow allows us to fix climate change, to somehow heal inequality? Can you envision a world where that happens?
Well, one is that you can never downplay the creativity of human beings. There's no doubt that the virtues of markets have to do with scientific breakthroughs and technological innovations. It's a beautiful thing. What you have to do is to make sure the markets are subordinate to public welfare. But unfortunately, especially in the United States, it's very difficult to be optimistic about American capitalism. It's had a long time to generate these results. In my campaign, I'm calling for an abolition of poverty, abolition of homelessness, strong defense of workers, strong defense of women, control over bodies and so forth, and a real accountability of the organized greed at the top. You see, so in that sense, I wouldn't say optimistic, but I'm not optimistic about anything.
You're not?
Very important. Oh, no.
You seem like an optimist to me.
Oh, no, I'm a blues man. There's no optimism in the blues.
I want to ask you not about what other people think, but about what you would think and how you would self-examine if the day came when, as Republicans, I think, ambitiously hope in their own way, you peel off votes from Biden, Trump wins. How will it square with your values and your internal voice? What would happen on that day if that day came?
I think we have to be, even in the political context, even though we're aware of strategic and tactical considerations, you do have to be honest about what's inside of you. And let me give you an example of this. I mean, 40% of U.S. citizens don't vote at all, and that's what I'm targeting. And 62% of those who vote third party, either Libertarian or Green, say they would never, ever, ever vote for Democrats or Republicans. So we're only talking about a small slice. But I can tell you this, the flip side is, if I remain silent, or if I begin talking about how wonderful Biden is when I don't believe it, that's a violation of my integrity. So that I do understand, that kind of finger pointing, you are the cause of fascism in America because you got 4% and so and so and so. Yes, that's something that I wrestle with. That's part of that Civil War, the battlefield of my soul too.
What I'm learning is that your real ambition is to be a kind of transcendent existential pressure inside the country to provide something that you think is not there.
Well, it's a beautiful way of putting it, but I wouldn't use the word transcendent. See, I'm a funk master. It's not transcendent. It's immanent. It's grounded in the culture and lived experiences of ordinary people, of those Sly Stone call everyday people. And that's true for all of the social movements. They have transcendent visions because it embraces everybody, no matter what color and gender and so forth. But it is in the funk. And the problem of America is it tends to deodorize its funk. When you playing your guitar, you know where the funky notes are, you see.
The only wrong thing you said is that I don't think I'm a very funky guitar player.
Well, you sound good to me.
Okay,
I'm telling you that.
I'll take it. Dr. Cornel West, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, really enjoyed it.
This was wonderful, though, brother.
Watch the Businessweek Show, Thursday nights, 10:30 Eastern on Bloomberg Television, or 8:30 on Bloomberg.com or the Bloomberg app on connected TVs.